Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Four Quarter Talk podcast with myself, Jack Brazil, and my co-host, as always, Josh Mazoke. Say what's up.
Yo, what's up?
Let's get into it. We've got a fun show for you today, a highly anticipated one as well. We're going to give you our all-star ballots for the season so far. Obviously, the second fan voting returns were just released, and there's some pretty wild stuff in there. We were talking off camera about Derrick Rose being in there and Klay Thompson being in there. We can assure you that those two did not make our list, but you know, All Star every year throws up a ton of conversations about who deserves it and who doesn't. So without further ado, I think we should just get straight into our two respective lists. Josh, do you want to go first with your East cards?
Yeah, I will. All right, so my first East guard will be Kyrie, and my second will be Jaylen Brown.
Oh wow! Okay, okay. Okay, so explain.
So Kyrie is having maybe his best season so far. He's averaging around 28, 5 and 6. Incredible efficiency, 52%, 41 from 3, and 95 from the free throw line. So he's just absolutely balling. Normally sometimes teams get penalized, for like having, a lot of great players, beside him, because obviously he's got KD and Harden, but he was doing a lot of this before Harden even came. And obviously he did miss that week out, but he still played 18 games, which is kind of in kind of like in the middle between a lot of the stars in the league so far. I just feel like Kyrie's just played at a high level all season. He silenced a lot of doubters, and yeah, he's just been an all-star to me. He's looked like a top 3 guard again.
Yeah, for sure.
Overall, so
he definitely
I definitely have
looks
him
like he's back to his best.
with Jaylen Brown. He's stepped up on a different level. I mean, when a couple seasons back, when he signed his extension, a lot of people had their eyebrows raised, thinking like, is he worth that? Is he on that level of a Brandon Ingram or, those other young players in those last couple draft classes? But he took a leap last year, but this season, he's taken an even bigger leap.
Yeah.
And he's kind of put himself right on par with Tatum. He's been the best player for the Celtics this season.
Yeah, and even when Tatum was out, he really stepped up for the Celtics.
And he's been doing things that, I just didn't even know were in his arsenal. He started to pull off those Tatum type moves. And because of him, I think the Celtics short-term and long-term ceiling has been raised. So yeah, he definitely deserves a nod.
Yeah, well, Jaylen Brown, when he was drafted, it was clear he was a very raw prospect. Had a lot of things that people liked. He's always a great defender and had a tremendous amount of athletic ability. But feels like each season he just kind of added more and more to his game. And this year he's putting it all together and has made that all-star leap. And I think he's on everybody's ballots. And I think he's definitely a lock, and maybe he's even a starter lock. But I'll get on to my guards because they're slightly different to yours. I've got Bradley Beal and Zach LaVine.
As a starter. All right, let's end this now. Let's end this. All right, guys.
Let me just find myself.
Thanks, guys, for watching another week of Four Quarter Talk podcast.
No,
you're joking. You're joking.
No, I'm not.
You're
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. Come on.
I'm being deadly serious, and he deserves it, and I'll tell you why. It's clear to see that with my list that
you don't care about winning.
Team records isn't as big of a deal for me. I just think this is the one time of year, all the other NBA awards are so focused on winning. I think this is the one time of year when people should be a bit more free and have a bit more fun with their picks. Bradley Beal, I think he's self-explanatory, 32.8 points per game, leading the league in scoring. Yes, his team is probably the worst team in the league. Let's get that straight. But that's definitely not down to Bradley Beal, who's having a career year. Numbers-wise, obviously those stats may be a bit inflated because he hasn't played as many games as other people, but nevertheless, in a shoddy offense, and he's still carrying so much of the load. And there used to be years prior where Bradley Beal would get snubbed countlessly, but now he's really staking a claim as a starting favorite, and you can see that in the fan voting returns. He's top of the lead, top of the list for the guards, and maybe a few of those are pity votes because people would free Bill and all that. But I feel like he's definitely warranted this starting spot. And Zach LaVine, Josh obviously wasn't too happy with this choice, but his stats speak for themselves. 28 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Was snubbed last year.
Wait. So 1 second. Tell me why, with the same stats, he should be over Kyrie, who's contributing to winning, but with the same stats.
I feel like Zach LaVine is in a very different situation.
Yeah.
Like if you swap those two players around, the team. I don't think the Bulls would gain any wins, and I don't think the Nets would probably gain any wins. You know
but if we're talking, so it'd be a bit different if Kyrie averaged like 24. But if Kyrie might have, maybe they'd win the same amount of games, or maybe Kyrie's averaging like 30, 32. Then in that case, if he's getting all the touches as well.
Zach LaVine is doing the thing that impressed me the most about Zach LaVine is his efficiency. I know Kyrie's been efficient, but Zach LaVine is not like right on the doorstep of the 50, 40, 90 club on 28 points per game, taking a tremendous amount of volume of shots for the Bulls. And obviously there's probably a lot of bias in this pick with me being a Bulls fan.
No.
Me watching a lot of Zach LaVine this year, but he feels like that player. He's just a walking bucket. When he wants to score the ball, he will score it, and he can turn it on like that. I think he's got a tremendously well-rounded offensive game. He's obviously got the athleticism, but he's really one of the best three-point shooters in the league. He makes tremendously tough shots as well. Can create his own offense like no other. And I felt bad for him. I don't think he should have been snubbed last year, especially as the game was in Chicago. And this year, obviously, as I said, my list wasn't too based around wins.
Yeah, true. He should have been an all-star last year, so this year he should be a starter. Yeah.
I think it's.
You think he should be the captain?
I think it's a bit of an overreaction from you.
He should be the captain.
His stats are ridiculous. 28, 5, and 5.
Kyrie's 28, 5, and 6.
But not on the same efficiency as Zach LaVine.
What's Zach LaVine's efficiency?
51% from the field.
Yeah, Kyrie 52. Wait. Yeah, go. You say one category. I'll say one for Kyrie. Go ahead.
Well, Zach LaVine is basically 51.9. So 52% from the field. 3%
right, 52 for Kyrie. 41 for Kyrie. Yeah.
And 86 from free throw.
And 95 for Kyrie.
Oh shit. I'm sticking with my pick, man. I'm sticking with the pick. I just feel like it's boring to have two Nets in the starting lineup. That's boring. Show some love to the underdog for once. Zach LaVine is an all-star starter. Lock it in.
I'm not trying to say, it's blasphemous to have him as an all-star, but like, all right, anyway, okay. Nah, we'll move on.
Hey, let us know if you think that pick was as bad as Josh made it seem, because
we might have to clip this, We might have to start clipping.
Out of context, if the stats are out of context, those are all-star starter stats. If they're out of context.
If they're both out of context, then
yeah. But obviously the wins.
I feel you.
Obviously you value wins a bit more than me, and there's a bit of Bulls bias. But give me Zach LaVine to start game. Who's your forwards for the East, Josh? Going to be very similar in who we pick here.
Well, who knows? You might have Wendell in here.
Nah, Daniel Gafford. Cristiano Felicio might even pop up.
All right.
Don't sleep on Luke Barnett either.
This was supposed to be objective. This wasn't supposed to be who you voted for. This is just. But anyway, all right. As my forward starters, I've got KD, Giannis, and Embiid.
So do I.
Yeah. So we just both talk about it. So with KD, obviously, not that it matters. Yeah. I mean, it matters to us, but it doesn't go into all-star consideration. But his bounce back, I mean, he might win, comeback of the year.
Yeah.
He's been tremendous. Hasn't missed a beat. He might be having his best season. Offensively, obviously, their team defense is not great, but he's just been he's been unbelievable. Nothing like I expected. KD is one of the most talented players of all time.
Yeah.
Combined with his build, I was thinking, worst case scenario, he'd fall off to a point where he would just have to, rely on his skill alone, and that would, bring him back a little bit. I'm not saying he'll turn into, a top 50 player or something, but I thought, maybe not top 3, but he's come back as good as ever. It's been insane to see.
Well, let's just read off some of his stats really quick. He's averaging 29.5 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, and 5.2 assists. On amazing efficiency, 53% from the field, 45% from three, and 87% from the free throw line. So those are numbers eerily similar to his MVP season in 2014-15, I believe. Am I correct? Or was it 14? No, 13-14? I think, yeah. But
13-14.
When he won the MVP as part of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the crazy thing about these stats is that he's having to share these shots with two other All-Stars in Kyrie Irving and James Harden, and his numbers haven't taken a hit.
Yeah, with another All-Star starter.
Yeah, to some people, yeah. But you were saying that their defense hasn't been good, but I think he does also make a big impact on that end as well. I think they look better as a defensive team with him in the lineup.
Oh yeah, I think he's the type of player where he's always going to be solid defensively. I just think it's not his fault, but surrounding him, like if he's around other good, smart defenders, he'll be a great defensive player. And then if he's around just, what he's got right now, he's being relied to do things that are outside of his skill set.
I do feel a bit bad for Kevin Durant in the MVP conversation, because I feel like the top 3. I think a lot of people are going with the top 3 of LeBron, Embiid, and Jokic as their top 3 MVP candidates. But I think if this protocol debacle didn't happen with Kevin Durant, he'd be lodged in that top 3 as well, because the wins are there, the stats are there. I think he's got the narrative of coming back from that injury and not missing a beat. So I feel like if that didn't happen, he'd be talked about a lot more, and he really does.
And he's had to come back from 2 COVID protocols, because I think he's back tomorrow. Is it tonight against the Warriors? I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's had to miss 2 weeks out of his multiple weeks out of his season for COVID protocols. So yeah, that hasn't helped his case either.
Let's move on to the second forward in Giannis Antetokounmpo, the MVP winner of the last 2 years. This one kind of speaks for itself as well. He's leading the Bucks to a healthy 16-10 record, and he's just putting up. His numbers have taken a bit of a hit this year from what they were the last 2 years, but they're still comfortably all-star starter numbers. If we were just to go through those quickly, he's averaging 28.1 points, 11.2 rebounds, and 5.6 assists. I think Giannis is always someone that thrives in the regular season.
I ain't got anything to add.
Yeah,
I've got nothing to add.
He's an all-star. I don't know what you want to say.
He's a perennial all-star. Yeah. You can just write him in for the next 5-6 seasons.
Yeah. He knows how to score the basketball, and he knows how to get his team to wins. And then let's move to the last forward spot in Joel Embiid. As I alluded to earlier, a top 3 MVP candidate, possibly the favorite in the early season. What has impressed you about Embiid this season, Josh?
The biggest thing is he's always coming into the league. Well, at least coming into his first healthy season of the league.
Yeah.
It was quickly apparent that he was that new age type of center, but mixed with that old school. So he could, I was about to say something so sus.
Let it fly.
But he can play down low, and
okay.
I was about to say something else. But anyway, he's got the post game.
Yeah.
The footwork, but he can also step out to 3. And in his rookie season, he shot a high clip from 3, or a decent one that showed potential. But since then, he kind of regressed. And that was seemingly because he had to take a lot more shots to, make up for the lack of spacing that they had. But now that he's able to just take shots like as they come to him, and he's a lot more familiar and comfortable with that balance between his outside and inside play. He's stepped up and he's having his most efficient 3-point shooting season to date.
Yeah.
Let me get the stat.
And his mid-range game as well is just money.
Yeah,
like,
it's incredible. But yeah, he's just under 40%.
Yeah.
You know, his free throw shooting has always been impressive for a big man. You know, he's at 85%. He's just been balling and you know, as offensively, he's having a tremendous season, but his defense is as impactful as ever. You know, they have a tremendous defensive team. You know, you look at him and Ben Simmons, who just said that he was the best defensive player in the league, which, you know, might be the case. But as a center, obviously, centers always kind of have the biggest impact on the defensive end because they're the last, you know, they're the last barrier of defense, really. And he's been that force, and he's been a big part of the Sixers looking like true contenders once again. He stepped up in a huge way. You know, once they lost Jimmy Butler, you know, there was kind of it was looking a bit iffy for whether they were contenders anymore or not, and especially after, you know, how they lost in the early last season. But he's stepped up in a big way, and he's starting to really show his potential.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. He's leading the Sixers, you know, as a top team in the East, and they really emerged as one of the favorites to come out of the East. And he's the defensive anchor and the offensive anchor of that team. He's really established himself as a 3-level scorer this year. He always had those bits in his arsenal, the mid range and the three, but this year they've come on leaps and bounds, and he's really efficient in those areas now. When in years previous he maybe wasn't so efficient. And for him to be in that top 3 MVP conversation, it's good to see, because he was someone that's, you know, everyone always knew he had a skill set that could really dominate the NBA, and this year he is dominating the NBA. And as you said, it's on both ends of the floor. It's not just offensively where most of the highlights have been. It's on the defensive end. He's led the Sixers to one of the best defenses in the NBA. So yeah, Joel Embiid is for sure an all-star starter. I'm not really sure who else you could even have in that spot, and he's can maybe even bring home an MVP award, which would be crazy to see.
Yeah, I started both sides by, you know, I had Bron, Embiid, and Jokic just penciled in because they're the 3 MVP candidates so far. So
let's move over to the West quickly for our starters. Who is your guard tandem, Josh?
At my guards, which was surprisingly controversial to you, I've got Curry and Dame.
Not controversial. I just went a different route. You know, if we agree,
you found a way to put a bull in the West, didn't you? Or something?
Look, if we agreed on everything, the show would be.
Yeah. Now this is
trying to spice it up a bit.
This is definitely a more fun episode. Yeah, I've got Curry and Dame. You know, them two have highlighted, you know, the top 3 guards overall for years. For the last you know 3-4 years. Curry is having a tremendous season, and I feel bad for him for the lack of offensive talent around. You know, I can only just, you know, imagine how they'd be with Clay inserted into that backcourt, because Curry is absolutely, he's gone 2016 mode. He's balling out of his mind right now. You know, he's had you know, his coming into this season, I think his career high was 54 several years ago. I think it might have been that game against the Knicks back in 2013. And in this season, he's already had 2 near 60-point games, you know, 1 60-point game, 62-point game, and a 57. So he's taking up the challenge. It was kind of what we were expecting to happen last year before he got injured. And he's done a lot for the squad, with a lot of the defensive attention focused on him even more than usual. He is another person that's slowly creeping up into that, you know, top 3 MVP discussion. As he drags that team into the mid playoff bracket, which I did try to tell you, man, like, you know, you don't just get doubt a player that is in the running for, you know, a top 20 player and a top 2 point guard of all time. Some arguing best of all time, but he's doing everything right now.
Yeah, he looks like a 40-point threat every time he steps on the court. And I heard this remarkable stat. It's after Curry drained 10 threes the other night. Steph Curry has hit 10 or more threes 17 times in his career. The next highest person to do that is Klay Thompson with 5. So, that
He
just
has more than the next 5 people on the list combined.
that just shows you what an outlier Stephen Curry is in terms of the 3-point shot. And I think the biggest testament to that is his off ball movement, the way he works to get space off the ball. And Draymond Green helps with that tremendously. Obviously, Draymond's always looking for Steph, and they know each other's games so well. I think that's the biggest difference between Steph Curry and someone like Trae Young. Like Trae Young can shoot from anywhere, but Trae Young doesn't work off the ball like Steph Curry does. And it's almost like when Steph Curry shoots a three, you're surprised when it doesn't go in.
And it's just surprising seeing how open he is a lot of the time as well. And
but
it's
he creates
because
that for himself.
Yeah, he's always running. He runs more than any player I've seen. Him and JJ Redick, they like to run around and get that open space. And a lot of players like, as you said, Trae Young, Luka Doncic, I think their 3-point percentage just suffers from the fact that they rely too much on creating their own 3-pointers.
Yeah. And Steph Curry is another one of those people was coming off an injury-ridden season. Obviously, his injury wasn't as severe as KD's, but he sat out pretty much the whole end of last season. So there was a few doubts if he was going to have a bit of rust or come back and have maybe a down year. And I certainly thought that, in an earlier episode, as Josh kind of alluded to earlier, I said maybe the Warriors should look to go a different direction, maybe tank. But they've proved me wrong, and I'm glad they have, because they're very exciting to watch. And there's no better players to watch when Curry's on form than Stephen Curry.
Yeah, we'll definitely go more deeper into the Warriors later on.
Yeah, and then your other guy sport, you said you had Damian Lillard.
Yeah, Damian Lillard just absolutely balling. As a team, they're playing at high levels. Right now, the 5th seed. After dealing with injuries, as the Trailblazers always do. But yeah, I know firsthand just from seeing Lillard playing for my fantasy squad. He's just balling out of his mind right now. He's at 30 points per game, basically, shooting high efficiency across the board. But yeah, Dame's just doing Dame things. He doesn't take the foot off the gas. He's used to dealing with a lot of these injuries to different players, and he always takes up the task to make up for those injuries. And that's why the Blazers are sitting where they are.
Yeah, he's really stepped it up since CJ went down with that injury, and he's one of those teams that can. I mean, he's one of those players that can carry a team into the playoffs. He's a player of that quality. They've got a pretty decent roster around him, but he's really taken up that offensive load. And it was weird because at the start of the season, CJ McCollum was actually outscoring Damian Lillard, and it was really strange to see that. But ever since CJ went down, as I said, he's really put his foot on the pedal, and is having maybe also maybe he should be at that conversation of MVP. Maybe he's on the outside, but he's creeping into the conversation, definitely, because he's got the Blazers into the playoffs quite comfortably right now. They're still winning games, even with Nurkic out, CJ out. So yeah, he's had a really impressive season, and this is what we've come to expect from Damian Lillard his past 4 or 5 years. Really stepping up as a perennial all-star, and as you think all-star star, but as I think, he just misses out. And I've also got Steph Curry in my starters, but I've gone with Luka Doncic as the other spot. And look, this is another example of me not caring as much about wins, but saying that the Mavericks are only 2 wins behind the Blazers, so the difference isn't that huge in terms of record. And Luka is just doing Luka things. I mean, 28.5 points per game, 8.7 rebounds, 9.4 assists, a triple-double threat every night. His last stretch of games, he just had his career high last night, 46 against the Pelicans. And, in an offense that has struggled at times, this Mavericks team, those struggles have been well documented. He's really wanted to drag them through it. And, there's a lot of playmaking responsibility on his shoulders. There's a lot of scoring responsibility on his shoulders. And for such a young player, it's crazy to see how easily he can take those responsibilities on. And he's 21 years of age putting up these numbers. These are historic numbers. I saw a stat while I was watching the Dallas Mavericks game last night. the third fastest player in NBA history to reach 4,000 career points, behind only Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal. That just tells you the type of player Luka Doncic is. He's on a historic career trajectory right now. He started his career, in historic fashion. And for me, he was an MVP contender going into the season. I think he was a lot of people's favorites to win that award. But the Mavericks haven't been as good as people expected.
He said himself that he shouldn't be in the discussion right now.
Yeah, and they're picking up a bit more form over their last four. But I think as long as the Mavericks are hovering over that 7-8 spot, I don't think he'll be in that conversation. But the stats are one of an MVP, and for me, the stats are one of an all-star starter.
I can't hate on that too much. He's playing good. He's playing great.
Yeah.
I feel like he's regressed a little bit from last season, but I think he'll pick it up.
If this is what regression looks like, then
his 3-point percentage is glaring at me. Yeah. I mean, it's gone up a little bit more, but I think they just have to do a bit more as a team.
Yeah, I think that was a lot to do with team. Team struggles. They sit at 29th in terms of 3-point percentage in the league. And Luka kind of reflects that. He's not one.
It's the difficulty of the shots that he takes.
Yeah. He takes a lot of long range threes because he kind of has to almost settle for those in a way. He can obviously make them, and when he catches fire, he gets really hot. But he's not one that can use any athleticism or off-ball movement to create a three. He kind of has to dribble his way into it. So maybe that's why he has to take the hardest shots. But apart from that, he's been excellent. So. Let's move into our West forwards now. Who have you got, Josh?
I've actually put, for my first forward position, I've put a guard. I've put Shai, obviously. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Yeah. For my forwards, I feel like we're going to have the same forwards. I mean, you can surprise me. But I've got LeBron, Kawhi, and Jokic.
I also have LeBron, Kawhi, and Jokic. So
those are three MVP candidates themselves. You know, the Clippers are not getting a lot of shine right now, but they are playing at a very high level.
It's just steadily winning.
And maybe this is good for them to not have all the spotlight on them and to not have all the expectations on them. They're just putting in work. Kawhi, earlier on, there were talks of PG just slowly putting up, a quiet MVP type season, but Kawhi is almost, I think Kawhi might be playing better than him at the moment. Yeah. But still, just as a tandem, I mean, they're playing at a high level. Kawhi's just putting in those numbers. And this season, Kawhi, he's gone away from that load management thing and he's just kind of looked at himself and said, the team needs me. They need the consistency for us to get familiar as a team so that we can actually have that postseason success that we're expected to have. Yeah. He's just putting consistent work.
I just want to say, I was watching the Clippers Bulls last night, and I'm telling you, if Kawhi Leonard rose up for a mid-range, it was going in. Swish, no room. I think he was 9 for 9 on mid-ranges. Like, if he got to his spot, you could just count the 2 points before the ball even left his hand. Like, he was so automatic. It's crazy. I've never seen anything quite like that. And
every time I watch a Kawhi game, that's my experience. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the league, both offensively and defensively.
So efficient. He doesn't have to do anything too flashy.
He just uses his size and uses his, he knows his spots and just gets to them and produces. Nothing too flashy, but it's just. As much as he doesn't play flashy, it's still mesmerizing just to watch how effortless it is for him.
And then LeBron James, I mean, as we said, top 3 MVP candidate this year. A lot of people's favorite. He's had this grueling stretch over the past few weeks where they've gone to 3 straight overtimes, and they've won all of them in large part thanks to LeBron James. AD missed all 3 of those games. So LeBron James had to really step it up. One of the clutchest players of all time, and he's showing it.
Give him credit, just two bruising games against OKC. It was looking a bit worrying there, when Ludo put him in the Dortress.
I mean, that was crazy. That was some crazy defense. Fair play to Lou Dort for that one. Moving the hands, moving the feet, really putting LeBron off his game, but couldn't quite overcome the king.
I mean, when he was matched up with him, I think he was shooting like 6 for 20, but it's cool.
He still got the W at the end of the day. He's not the first all-star to be put in the Dortress.
Lou Dort is, he spends a lot of time with his kids across the league. So yeah, he has time.
I'm surprised you don't have him in your starters.
He has time for all of them. I actually exercised a bit of objectivity here,
Hey, Zach LaVine, man, he's a baller. But yeah, LeBron. What else can we say really about LeBron James? Apart from the fact that, what I do want to say actually is that what's really impressed me is the way he's expanded his 3-point game.
He's dead eye shooter now.
Year 18, and he's still evolving his offensive game, which is crazy. He's shooting over 40% from 3 for the first time in his career, on I think 7 attempts a game. So it's not like he's being cautious with that. He's letting it fly, and that's really helped with other areas of his game, because people have to really guard LeBron now on the 3.
I mean, adding if this can be a consistent staple of his game, he can expand his career for
sure
for another 5 years, because
and who knows, maybe he'll even become a 90% free throw shooter next year. Who knows? It's not out.
The one thing there.
It's not out of the realm of possibility, though. That's the thing, because LeBron, he keeps defying expectations.
I feel like LeBron would rather shoot a 3 than a free throw, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
I think that's just a mental thing. I mean, I've seen watching him year in, year out. It's like his free throw routine changes like all the time.
Yeah.
That has to be a mental thing, because he's tried all types of things, different numbers of dribbles, stepping further back from the free throw line. I mean, when like a lot like me and teammates I've played with and all of that, like they kind of just find their routine and then they don't change it ever. So yeah, that's a mental thing for him. But he has he makes it so hard. You kind of have to look at his prime in like different stages. Like he has different primes where it's like
it's crazy.
I mean, you could argue that his prime started in like 2010.
Yeah, when he joined the Heat,
or maybe even before that, because he won those 2 back-to-back. But yeah, his prime might start in 2009, and right now we're 2021. So
and
it's incredible to see, because he's even smarter now. He knows his sports. He knows the IQ is just incredible.
And his numbers,
his dunk last night. I mean,
the
athleticism is not
way
going
above.
anywhere.
He still lives life way above the rim, and his numbers may fool a few people who just look at box scores. Not career numbers, which I think crazy.
At this point, even the casuals know that once it gets to playoff time.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that his numbers, he's playing a all-time low minutes per game. And he's still firmly in the MVP conversations. And I think that's a testament to his 3-point shot, because, he can put up more efficiency in less minutes. Obviously, this past week, he's played about,
at this rate, he might be about to get to, his career high in minutes, but.
Yeah. But I don't think there's many more OTs. Actually, who knows? But,
we'll see when he next plays OKC.
But yeah, like it's crazy. The Lakers only had 2 overtimes the whole of the last regular season, and they've had 3 in a week. And I think that there was a stat that hasn't happened for the Lakers since the early 90s. And LeBron's had to play big minutes in all of those, because, as I said, they didn't have AD. So if they wanted to win, LeBron had to be there. And he's quietly got the Lakers to a 21-6 record, only bettered by the Jazz. So yeah, LeBron is obviously, I've probably, will go on to break the record for most All-Star appearances if he hasn't already.
He's got a few records coming.
Yeah.
Over this last final stretch of his career, he's chasing a lot.
He's gonna be the all-time scoring leader when it's said and done as well. Really, really ramping up that case for greatest of all time. But let's not get into that, because that's a dead horse at this point. Last spot, This one speaks for itself as well. Nikola
Last but
Jokic,
not least, certainly not least,
the fantasy MVP. You know
Nikola
better than anyone.
Jokic. Nikola Jokic.
Speak about your boy,
you've
man.
got
Speak
him on
about your boy.
you've got him on your other league, your little finesse
but,
league, though, don't you?
Yeah, but that one's kind of over because them
that was just easy money. What are you?
No.
Who's second
them man have
place?
already,
Who's second place?
them man have already given up, man. It's like them man are not doing rosters and
Are they just running your money up front?
No, I don't think we're paying because people like 3 of us agreed and then 2 of us didn't. So we're just like, okay, people aren't gonna pay. Let's be real.
It was a high key finesse.
The thing is, it wasn't even that, bro. I wasn't even the one that suggested money to be put on the table. That was Edson. I don't know if Edson's listening, but Edson, bro, this guy loves doing stuff for money. He might have a problem, but this guy had Robert Covington on his roster and was saying, "Oh, let's play for money." 12.
Let me keep quiet. Let me keep quiet. I definitely didn't draft Robert Covington.
Hey man,
he was balling last year, man. He was balling last year. Okay, but Nikola Jokic, the Joker, he
toughest logo in the NBA.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, but that was tough.
I've seen it. The Joker, he just
Swiss Army knife.
He's balling, man. He's balling. 27 points, 11 rebounds, around 9 assists, 56% shooting, 40.
A near triple-double from the center spot. That is just
at 50.
crazy.
At basically 57% shooting.
Yeah.
And basically 40 from the free. Like,
the thing that's impressed me
doesn't make sense.
The thing that's impressed me the most with him is that he's become like a real scorer. I never really.
Yeah, he's shown in playoff series. He's shown in playoff series that he had the potential. He just abused his matchup. But particularly, after following, starting this season, because normally he'll start the season slow, be out of shape. But before the playoffs, before the bubble, when he committed to, losing all that weight and getting himself in his best shape,
Skinny Jokic,
it's just been, and we were wondering, will he forfeit a bit of his strength by slimming down? But it has not been the case at all. He just abuses every center matchup. These centers just look lost.
Who's Rudy Gobert in this game? Who is Rudy Gobert?
They just look absolutely lost. I feel like the only matchup for him at the center position might be like, Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid. Yeah. That's it. But even them.
Well, you would think Rudy Gobert, but Jokic is his father.
Yeah, Jokic is a proud father. To Rudy Jokic, man. Like
Rudy Jokic, who's that?
That's Nikola Jokic's son, right? What are you talking about?
Hey, he would be one hell of a center, Rudy Jokic.
he might be Nikola Jokic Jr. by the end of the season, but he's owned him since that playoff series. But there's not much to say about Jokic. He's just an all-round center, and people try to say, there's still that ongoing debate, which you love to see, just 2 young players in Embiid and Jokic, balling out.
Hey, the center spot is back.
It's back, with hopefully Cat Perez out there with what he's going through, but he'll be in that discussion for years to come as well. But them 2 just look like the perfect offensive centers, and people talk about his defense, but even his defense is decent enough.
Yeah.
He does enough things. He's not a high flyer. He's not gonna protect the rim, but he does enough other things like invading passing lanes and all.
Very good rebounder as well.
Tremendous rebounder. So he's just that player to build around. He's one of those top 5 players that you'd build around. And
I feel like he's really dragged the Nuggets through a tough season. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. have both looked very, very average this year.
Yeah, they look like frauds, honestly.
But he's still got them into the playoffs actually not really quite comfortably, because there's a few teams like knocking on the door of that. But they're in the 7th seed right now, and that's mainly down to Jokic, because he's really having to put the team on his back, and I think that's why you see such an uptick in points per game this year. You always knew that the passing and the rebounding was going to be there, but as we said, I didn't really see him as a
feel like his commitment. Why I was so adamant about, because I had him on my fantasy league last year, but why I was so adamant about taking him first was that normally he kind of settles into this type of play, and that's what kind of affects his overall averages, is that it takes him the first 20 games to get in shape. But his commitment to his health and his fitness has just taken him up a level, to the point where he kind of just hit the ground running this season, and that's reflected in his overall play.
And it's it's easy to forget that this guy was a second round pick. Out of Serbia, so probably no one knew batted an eyelid when he was drafted. And now here he is comfortably in that MVP conversation, and definitely, maybe could even win it this year. I know the record maybe isn't there as much, but he's putting up all-time numbers from the center spot. I mean, what other centers are averaging 11 and 8 in rebounds and assists? I mean, 11 and 9.
You want to know something funny? You want to know who the first pick was in that draft?
Anthony Bennett.
No, fellow center Jahlil Okafor.
Damn, that is rough. Wait, and he was drafted by the Sixers.
Yeah, so I guess
the Sixers
it
could
worked
have
out.
had Jokic and Embiid. Wow, even though that probably.
I guess it worked out.
Wow.
In the end, but yeah.
What happened to Jahlil Okafor, man? I remember he first rookie season he was balling, and then he punched someone outside a club or something, and then
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but Jokic is he's just, and he hasn't missed much any time this year, so it's clear his health has got a lot better. So yeah, Jokic is a lock, man. Might even be the MVP when it's all said and done. Let's move into our reserves, because this show is probably going to be 6 hours long if we don't hurry up a little bit. Yeah. Let's go back to the East, Josh. We'll alternate on this one. So give me a reserve.
So obviously, I do have Levine and Beal in there.
Yeah.
But my first, I'll go with Middleton, who has been absolutely balling this season. He was, to start the season, he was kind of carrying the offense, really outplaying even Giannis. He's raised his level, even from last season, which was a near 50, 40, 90 season. But what I've really liked to see from him is he's had an uptick in his playmaking, which has been big, because we were thinking, one of the things that I wanted to see most from the Bucks was moving away from an over-reliance on Giannis for playmaking and scoring, because I think he needs to be a player that's kind of featured, but not initiating everything. And we thought we'd get that with Jrue Holiday, which we have. But Middleton has stepped up in that front as well, which has been big for them. And obviously his scoring has been great as well. And I've liked to see that he's one of the leaders in clutch scoring as well. So that can help. That can kind of add to that, that overall issue of, who's gonna be that go-to scorer for the Bucks in the clutch, because it doesn't look like Giannis can be that player, with his limited offensive arsenal. Obviously, a couple games ago, with having that Giannis pull-up was very questionable.
We can live with that.
And that before that, I think it was a Giannis corner three.
Yeah.
So as I said, I'm kind of done with Mike Budenholzer at this point. I think he needs to go now.
Yeah, but, I think Middleton's value to the Bucks, and as a NBA player in general, is a lot bigger than his 20 points suggests. I mean, he's, as you said, his clutch time production is going up, so that suggests he's taking that step to really be that closer for the Bucks. And that's this is a team with on paper it's a championship caliber team.
I honestly believe that with Jrue Holiday now, and if this is what we can come to expect from Middleton, I don't think they need to make any major roster changes.
Maybe a playmaker.
I just mean major, because they now have two players that are helping in that aspect.
Middleton, for sure, yeah.
Middleton's playmaking has been incredible this year, and obviously Jrue Holiday. So I think, because whenever I evaluate the Bucks now, kind of like even last season when I made that prediction about the Heat, is I don't look at their record. I just look at what signs they show of things that can be carried on to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And right now, they look good. I just think they're just being held back by Budenholzer, to be honest. I think if they have the same the same players, but with a coach that kind of knows how to use them and isn't too stubborn to make adjustments, I think they can really be a legitimate contender.
For sure. Like they have all the pieces definitely there to be a contender. It's just Budenholzer needs to either leave or reevaluate his system, which we know is not going to happen because he's been
3 years. It's 3 years now,
and even before this with the Hawks,
even with the Hawks, like I think it's over.
So, but the thing is, I don't think the Bucks will fire him if he leads him to another 50-win season. They're not going to fire him.
I think I see him getting fired in the playoffs because obviously right now there's not too many alternatives that will come off the street to coach them at a high level. But I think this will probably be his last season, in my opinion. But Middleton has been incredible,
and he's really the perfect complement to someone like Giannis, who, as you said, has an offensive game. Chris Middleton does not have a limited offensive game at all, and he's very efficient at what he does. He's 50-40-90 club this year.
Yeah, he's one of the best ISO players in the league. And he scores at the highest rate, one of the highest rates as an ISO player, which is why it was always so confusing for me why he wasn't that go-to player in the clutch.
Yeah, and then if you it's like he's playing with someone that's got such a high usage rate in Giannis, and he's still putting up 26 and 6. Which
that's why I think they need new coaching to kind of reallocate how they use different players in the offense. So
those numbers could probably even be higher for Chris Middleton. Which is
honestly, if I see another playoff game of the Bucks of Giannis running into a wall, I swear, I might send
put a CV in
Bud myself.
Put a CV in for.
Oh no, I'm talking about a hit, bro. Send a hit out on Bud, man.
Send a hit and then
hurting my eyes. He's hurting my eyes, man.
Right, so
go ahead.
I think we both have Chris Middleton as an East All-Star, and he definitely deserves it. I'll go next. You obviously spoke about we spoke about Jaylen Brown, but we haven't yet come to Jason Tatum, who's one of my East reserves.
I'm guessing you had Kyrie as well, right?
I did have Kyrie.
Just to get that out of the way.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't. I'm not as an all-star. I just think Zach LaVine, he's my guy. But Jason Tatum, last year and this year has really stepped up as a franchise player for the Boston Celtics. The team didn't suffer too much without him, as maybe you think they would because of Jaylen Brown, but they still looked worse, and that's an encouraging sign for the value of Jason Tatum, who's kind of moved into that spot as the power forward this year, and is having a tremendous season. He's another one that the Celtics obviously traded down to get in the draft when they drafted him, and another one that as soon as he came in to the league, you could tell he was going to be special. He had all the tools, and he's putting it together this year. The Celtics record would maybe suggest that they, maybe shouldn't have two All-Stars. They're saying only one game over 500, but these two are way too good for us to leave out of the All-Star game. And Jason Tatum for sure deserves to be an All-Star. And probably, this is, going to be an ongoing trend for Jason Tatum, who's going to be a star in this league for a long, long time to come. Only 22 years of age, having a career year, as I said, and I can only see him getting better. From now on, I'm guessing you have Jason Tatum as well, Josh.
Oh, of course, I've got Tatum. Yeah, he's been playing at a high level. As I said, Brown's kind of been the spotlight of the squad so far, but obviously Tatum has still been balling. They're both clearly all-stars. So I'll give my last three just together as one, and I think these are three players that aren't perennial all-stars, but maybe one of them might end up being, but I just feel like they deserve a bit of love. You might not have all of them here, but I've got Randall, Sabonis, and Hayward.
Wait, those are all-stars for you?
Yep. So
that is crazy. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just giving them love. I didn't want them to be too similar, but honestly, starting with Sabonis, I think Sabonis shouldn't really even be a question.
Yeah, I also have Sabonis on my list.
Yeah, Sabonis shouldn't be a question to me. He's balling at a high level. The Pacers are balling at a high level. Sabonis has just shown, last year people raising their eyebrow like, oh, maybe this will be his,
His only.
he'll have one All-Star, but I think he's cementing himself as, a perennial All-Star in the East at least. And I look back and I remember he was on our team, and the great Billy Donovan had him as a stretch five, but
which clearly isn't his game at all.
He's been great. He's shown, he's playing kind of like his dad. His dad was as that. He's just an all around big man.
Over this Sabonis.
21, 11, and 5. Almost 6 assists. So he's absolutely balling. He deserves it. He's been kind of carrying the offense. I would have had, if we did this a couple of weeks ago, Brogdon would be in a discussion too, but he's kind of regressed a little bit, and I don't think they're a 2 All-Star team.
No.
But Sabonis has been absolutely balling. So moving on to Hayward, I think he's balling, and they're sitting at the 6th seed with a young team.
Crazy.
He's had some tremendous performances. I just feel like as a leader, a leader to his young players, and just he's kind of showing that he didn't really fall off. But that whole, that last couple of years of the Celtics, he just looked like across the board there were just a lot of bad fits there. Too many playmakers, too many of those that mold of player. It is starting to look like a lot of blame was pushed towards players that maybe didn't completely deserve it in Kyrie and Hayward. I think it was more of a fit thing.
Yeah.
Because, I saw people saying, people that were hating so much that they actually fixed their mouths to say that Kyrie would be better than, that Kemba would be better than Kyrie.
And now they're trying to trade him for a Big Mac and fries.
So, that's not looking great. But I think Hayward just played up to that level to deserve a reserve spot. And then with Randle, the Knicks have been the big surprise of this season. They're currently at the 8th seed. It might not last too long, but who knows? Now they've picked up Rose to add to that veteran leadership. But Randle's been he's been great. He's been consistent. 22, 11, really 22, 11, and 6. That's nothing to sneeze at. He's been
very similar numbers to Sabonis.
With shooting 47% from the field, 39 from 3. Mm-hmm. So he's absolutely balling himself, and he's just adding to that new Knicks culture that they've got there, that can really bring up their future a little bit, because they're looking like they're really fighting. And I just feel bad for the fans, because a lot of the fans had to endure absolutely terrible play, and then the one season where they actually start to turn the page, there's no fans there. But they're giving a tremendous product. I'm sure New Yorkers are very happy with what they're seeing.
And this is a breakout year from Julius Randle that we thought he might never see, because obviously he's in year 7 now, and this is his kind of breakout All-Star kind of year.
He's had some spurts, but
he's putting it all together this year. He's obviously been given the nod as the leader on that team, the main guy, and he's thriving in that role, leading the Knicks team that have been tanking the last few years into a playoff race. So his value can't be understated. He wasn't on my list, but he's in my honourable mentions that we'll get to later. He's been balling. I think I had Sabonis on my in my reserves, but now hearing their stats and looking at the team's records, the Knicks are only 1 game behind the Pacers. Maybe it's a lot more of a tighter race than I thought for that spot. And with Hayward, a lot of eyebrows were raised when the Hornets paid him all that money. For aging Gordon Hayward to go there, who came up with a few mediocre years in Boston, but
he looks like he's really got a chip on his shoulder after Trump lost the election.
He's in the capital,
he's in that zone.
Yeah, he's in the capital,
in the red state as well. Yeah, so he's absolutely going off.
But he's really rediscovered those Utah days form, where he was an All-Star back then, and he looks like that player again now. He's forming a beautiful partnership with LaMelo Ball, who's moved into the starting lineup this past week. And the Hornets look a lot better than a lot of people thought. Another team that could well end up in the playoffs. Really
Especially
exciting to watch as well. With
allowing Lamelo to really bowl. You know that they're
Yeah,
really
yeah.
giving him.
And
Giving him the keys now. So
with those quotes from James Borrego, I didn't think that was going to be the case this year, really. But when he was saying 5 turnovers in 5 minutes, that's not a start for my team. But he's really
that's
kind of made
an
a
ego
U-turn.
thing there.
He's kind of really made a U-turn and really given LaMelo the keys
I
to
think
the offense.
Rozier. Yeah, I think with Rozier out, they gave LaMelo a chance. And
hey, Rozier's balling
kind
though. Since he came back, he scored 41.
Oh yeah, but I just mean giving LaMelo a chance to be in the backcourt. So
well, it's clear he should have been a starter from a lot earlier than he was. He's running away with the rookie of the year race, I think. But yeah, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the All Stars, which LaMelo's. I'm surprised he wasn't on the ballot for the fan voting. You know, he's got a large following.
True.
I'm surprised he wasn't there, but he obviously won't be an All Star this year, but probably a lot in his future. But yeah, those are some very different picks. I don't disagree with them per se. You know, they all deserve to be All Stars, but I do just think there's some people ahead of them that maybe deserve it a little bit more. And 2 people I'm very shocked you left off your list: James Harden and Trae Young. James Harden has been an All Star ever since he got to Houston, pretty much, and I expect that to continue. Obviously, he's on a successful Nets team, playing a different role. As we thought he would, more of a playmaker role, but he's still going to fill up in the scoring department as he always will. Not quite 35 point per game averages as he's been doing in MVP seasons in the past years, but he's playing a different role and it's working out beautifully for the Nets. You know, you've got 2 guys who can score the ball already, so James Harden has thought, okay, let me fill a different role that we might not have and that I can successfully do, leading the league in assists with 11 assists per game, 24 points to go along with that. So for me, those are All-Star numbers. I couldn't leave him out, even though maybe his case is hit a bit with his start to the season and him coming over to the East late. Maybe that's an obstacle that coaches might take into consideration when they're picking their reserves. But I do just think those stats speak for themselves and they're amounting to wins.
Yeah, I'm purely going with the precedent set in past years of kind of when players get traded, to a new conference, they kind of don't always get that consideration. So I just wanted to give some shine to other players. But obviously, Harden is playing at a high level. He's balling and he's showing that he can be. He's basically the point guard, obviously. With Kyrie taking that scoring role, their offense is looking seamless. That's not a problem at all. The too many basketballs to go around thing was kind of overstated there. Obviously their defense is terrible.
Abysmal.
But
isn't it? There was a stat. They have the best offense by far.
Oh yeah, best offensive rating of all time and the worst defensive rating
since Harden joined the team, which makes them really fun to watch.
But not a winning formula.
And if you were a Nets fan, you probably hate that stat. But if you're a neutral like us, you probably love that stat.
I've not seen a game where they didn't give up like 120 points.
But I do still expect them to make moves in that department before the trade deadline. There's rumors coming out about obviously JaVale McGee rumors are still there, but then there's like mad rumors about Drummond being bought out and going to the Nets, which I don't know how they could afford that, but unless he took a massive salary hit.
No, if he gets bought out, then he'll just sign for a minimum anyway. Because if you get bought out, then you just get your whole salary, and then whatever you get from the Nets is just extra.
Fair play. So Drummond could be an option, but he's pretty much scouted by every top contender, the Lakers, and James Harden for me, he's a lock, and I think he will be there. I think his stats are too good for his move to the East to be something that takes that away from him. And then my other guy that you didn't include was Trae Young, who I actually didn't have on my original list. Actually had Bam Adebayo in that spot. But I looked at Trae Young's stats. He obviously had that rough patch in January where he couldn't shoot anything, he couldn't hit anything. But recently he's really stepped it up and got back to the form we know for Trae Young. I think he's probably in the future going to be up there with Steph Curry in terms of 3-pointers made. He started at an historic pace on that front. 26.5 and 9, on a team in the playoffs. I think that's a... Oh, no, actually, sorry, they're out of the playoffs right now, but they're knocking on the door. They're not far behind the 9 and 8 seed, only one game back. So I feel like for me, those speak for themselves. He's really, he's always been a good playmaker, but this year I think he's even taken a step up. He can dime it with either hand. He's the subject of double teams a lot of the time. So, he's good at passing out of double teams. He's got a good understanding with his bigs, John Collins, and his wing players now in Cam Reddish, Hunter, who's been out the past few weeks, and Kevin Huerter. They're really knocking down the passes he gives to them. So I think that's a big reason why he's third in the league in assists, because of those players taking a step up. But yeah, Trae Young is an all-star for me. Why?
For
why
me,
didn't you put him in there?
I was just expecting a bit more out of them as a team. I think,
yeah, for sure.
A lot of the time we'll be like, he's balling though. But I think he is part of that as well, because whilst he is averaging, 26 and 9, he is also having quite a bad efficiency, a bad season efficiency wise. Yeah. Shooting only 42% from the field and 36 from 3, which is, far cry from what's expected from him. You kind of think of him for his shooting. So that isn't great so far. And I just think as a team, those teams that I mentioned, they're getting efficient scoring out of them, and their teams are performing a bit better as well. And it is behind them as well. So I just thought I'd give them some shine. So I think Trae can step it up. He likely will. I'm just talking from the season so far.
Yeah. Well, let's move over to the West. No, not too many surprises in the East. Over to the West. I'll go first with this one. Obviously, I didn't have Luka. Just a disclaimer: I didn't have Luka. I didn't have Dame as a starter, but I've obviously got him in my reserves. He's really close to Luka for me in being a starter, but he's obviously the first reserve. Then I'm going to go with maybe a surprising one. Tell me if you think this is surprising. I've got Zion Williamson as a first-time All-Star. Did he make your list, Josh?
Yeah, he made my list.
Yeah, I think Zion. He's had one of the most efficient starts to an NBA career anyone can have. Just last night, he shot 14 of 15 against the Mavericks. And the first half, I think he was 11 of 11. So it begs the question: why did they not give him the ball more in the second half? But when it feels like when Zion rises up, the ball's going in the net. He's got tremendous hang time, so he can change his shot in midair. He doesn't even have to think about what shot he's going to take when he leaves the floor. He can think about it in the air. He doesn't really need a jump shot at this stage. I'm sure that will come with time. He can knock down the three. Not very impressive, but it can be knocked down. And yeah, I think he's an all-star. I think the Pelicans, the Pelicans aren't doing too well this year. Maybe we expected a bit better from them with all the talent they've got on that roster. But if anyone's going to be an all-star on that team, I think it's Zion.
Yeah, I think with Zion, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind now. There's just not a lot of coverage on him for some reason. They've kind of gone away from him and gone towards, LaMelo and some other young players. But he has not regressed at all. He is playing as well as ever. As you mentioned, he's not getting a lot of the shots. He's doing a lot of this stuff in low attempts, but high efficiency. Because obviously they're still kind of having a Brandon Ingram as that go-to and as a playmaker. But yeah, Zion is balling. He's shown that. I think he's shown he's an all-star. I think it's likely he will be an all-star because of the voting aspect of it. But he's absolutely balling. A lot of the time you'll see him. He has a lot of 10 for 14. 11 for 13. A lot of games of that caliber, and he just continues to fill up the box score. And he's scoring at he hasn't even played, I think, 60 or 70 games yet overall, because he didn't play a lot of games last season. And he's having historical scoring rates for the few games that he's played. I think he's on pace with Michael Jordan for those start of career type numbers. So Yeah, he's balling out.
Who have you got next on your list, Josh?
Yes, I've got the Jazz duo in
Jazz
Gobert.
boys.
Yeah, in Gobert, Shaq's favorite players.
Yeah.
In Gobert and Mitchell. They've silenced, the doubters and Shaq. They keep reeling off these wins. I think they've won 16 of their last 17 games.
Crazy.
So they're just continuing to. I mean, we're pretty far into the season, almost reaching the halfway point. I mean, we're over the quarter point, but
about a third into the season.
Yeah, it's starting to kind of eclipse that territory of being, start of a season run. They are starting to look legit. They were kind of going off their 3-point shooting, but I mean, at a certain point, you just kind of have to take it for what it is, and they are just playing at a high level. Gobert showing his impact. There was a lot of discussion about his contract, with us included, and as much as he might not be of that caliber overall, to that franchise, he's clearly showing that he is worth that, and that is his value to that franchise, and he's got them playing at a tremendous level. They're just looking absolutely, their stats could be even better because they're blowing out a lot of these teams, so they're not playing as many minutes. And then with Mitchell, he hasn't fallen off since that first round playoff series. It seems that he's kind of had a chip on his shoulder since losing that against Murray, who Murray has not looked anything like he did in the playoffs. But Mitchell has been, he's been playing tremendously.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell has really looked like he hasn't really, numbers wise, hasn't really taken much of a step, but he's slotted really well into this. I think it's a new kind of offense they're trying with a lot more volume of threes this year, and they're hitting them at a all-time rate as well. That's a large part to their success. They've got a lot of people on that team that can shoot and knock down threes. They've got Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's been great again. Jordan Clarkson off the bench, who's the sixth man of the year. Favorite.
Huge credit to Quinn Snyder, who is consistently adapting his play to the people on his roster and just to how they perform. That's why we get on. That's why we get on Budenholzer, because he's just kind of thrown out the same game plan regardless of his team.
Yeah,
they're
a team that know how to move the ball. That ball is like that rock is always swinging from side to side.
I saw you change up there.
I didn't do anything.
You're learning.
Yeah, that rock is always swinging from side to side, and they're always finding the open man. Joe Ingles has been really good as that glue guy. He's added more of a playmaking aspect to his game this year, Joe Ingles. And I feel like with Rudy Gobert, you put him around any other four guys, that defense will still be pretty damn good. That's how much of an impact he makes on the defensive end.
Yeah, he allows these the other four to really press up on their player because they feel they've got that backup there that will erase their mistakes.
Yeah, and a lot of, I think the Jazz have warranted with their record 2 All-Stars, and who better than their 2 best players? Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell have probably both been as impactful as each other. The stats might jump out to you more on Donovan Mitchell's side, but Rudy Gobert's game is completely different.
I mean, their offense and defense have been at historical rates, and that's led behind Mitchell for the offense and Gobert for the defense. So, I mean, Gobert's defense alone with a bad offensive team would probably be still in the playoffs, and Mitchell's offensive game, the offense around Mitchell would be the same way, but without the defense. But together, they've just been, a highly, impactful team, and they look like they're not going anywhere in terms of being high up in the Western Conference.
Yeah. The only thing I will say, is anyone really trying to watch Rudy Gobert in the All-Star game?
I said that too. I said that especially last year. But to be fair, he was good last All-Star game. He was actually making some good plays, to be fair.
Yeah, but yeah. All right, let's move into some more reserves. I've got Paul George and Anthony Davis. I'll say them as a pair because they're both from LA and they're both the number 2 options on their team. I think Paul George is having a fantastic season. one of the best of his career, no doubt. And there was a lot of doubters surrounding Paul George, obviously because of that terrible playoff run last year where they blew that 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets, and he was hitting the side of the backboard and shooting horribly. But this year he's been actually really efficient, and he's averaging 24 points per game, 6 and 5 on a team that's the top 3 seed. The efficiency, as I said, is incredible. 50 from the field, 50% from the field, 47%, 48% from 3-point, and 90% from the line. So he's looking like he might end up in the 50-40-90 club this year. And on 4 points per game, he's that duo of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George is probably the most efficient duo in the league. And that's a big step the Clippers have had to take this year. Can this turn them from a regular season success into playoff success? They'll be hoping so. Obviously, Paul George gets a bit, changes a bit in the playoffs. We've seen that in the last 3 or 4 years, that he gets a bit of cold feet when it comes to the playoffs. Hopefully, he's moved past that now and can really contribute in the off season. But if we're just talking regular season, he's been fantastic. And similar with Anthony Davis, he's having a down year, no doubt, for his lofty standards. He's not been as aggressive as you might want from Anthony Davis. Last year, he turned a non-playoff team into title winners, so that just shows you his impact. But yeah, 23 points and 8 rebounds for Anthony Davis is a down year, which tells you all you need to know about Anthony Davis. It will be a benefit of the Lakers if he starts taking more shots and starts going in the low block more. But they haven't really needed it so far. They're sitting only a game behind the Jazz in the West. So
yeah, I agree with that. AD, but in a way, I think AD does need to step up. I think they will need it because.
But I think the Lakers are another team that deserve 2 All-Stars.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, pushing LeBron to have to play that much is not great.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do need him to step up. But yeah, he's having a down year. But at the end of the day, the Lakers are top 2 in the West. They deserve 2 All-Stars. And yeah, with Paul George, I really want this to be the year that they actually do carry to the playoffs because, that was kind of a thing that was pushed and gassed up for a while of that Lakers rivalry, and we didn't really get to see it. And I do enjoy watching Paul George play. When he's on his game, his offensive game is great to see.
When he's not in his game, you're the first one to.
Yeah, because I mean, I had so much faith in him, and I wanted him to do so well. Like I watched it live when he had that leg injury, and to see him come back and then obviously play for my team as well. I wanted him to be great. So obviously, when he disappoints like that, 3 years in a row, it's not great. Lose a sour taste.
Yeah.
With the 2 for 13, the backboard shot. So I hope they do bounce back. I hope this really lasts because I want to see. I mean, I kind of wanted to see the Clippers, do well because Kawhi is a player I love to watch play as well. So yeah, and I hope they're legit, but it's so hard to put faith in them.
And Paul George is probably someone who has benefited the most from this lack of media coverage from the Clippers because I feel like he's someone that is very involved in the social media world. When he was having those beefs with Damian Lillard in his comments.
Posting those like 14-year-old girl.
Yeah. So he's someone that you can tell is looking at his Instagram and Twitter a lot. And now that less is being said about the Clippers, he can kind of focus more on his own game and what he needs to improve, like mentally and obviously on the court.
And I just hope he stays healthy because obviously he had the recent little injury, neck injury, but I hope he's healthy come playoff time because I really want to see. You want to see the best players play when it matters, and as much as I just hope he gets in the rhythm. But at the end of the day, as much as they're not getting, the press right now, if they get to those stages of the playoffs, they are still there's no hiding.
Yeah.
So yeah, he needs to keep that up.
Who's your last few All-Stars, Josh?
Yeah, so I've got Devin Booker here. I had CJ McCollum as an honorable mention, and I had Shea and DeRozan as honorable mention. So D Book is who I opted to go with, simply because they are 4th seed. He's playing well. He's playing well enough to justify being an all-star. Let me just pull up his stats real quick. So yeah, he is averaging 24 points. Near 50% shooting.
Yeah.
Only 35 from three, only 36 from three. So that's below his standard. But he is balling. As a team, they're playing really well. With the acquisition of Chris Paul.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just balling. They're playing at a high level, so I kind of have to give the nod. But with those other three, I think either one of them could potentially be in there just based on their play alone. With McCollum, obviously he suffered the injury a month ago, so that's kind of taken him out of consideration because he's been out for some time. But he was being heavily relied on in that offense for a while. He's playing at a high level, and he was stepping up quite a bit as well. With a lot of the clutch scoring, he was kind of taking that, not the Dame role, but he had an even heightened role that you've kind of seen him have in playoff series. Back when the series after the OKC series where he started to kind of take more of the offensive role. So he's kind of out of it now. And then I've had DeRozan, who, we always count the Spurs out, but they've been playing really well behind DeRozan. He's averaging 25 and almost 7 assists, which is amazing for him. So he's expanded his game in the playmaking department. And then Shea, who, obviously he's on my team. And I could have put him as a starter, I guess. But his play cannot be understated. He's taken the next step. He actually has identical stats to Devin Booker, but obviously...
Devin Booker has the wins.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of had to penalize him there because this season, I think... I actually want the stat, but there are a lot of players averaging 20 points per game this season. Like a crazy amount of players averaging 20 points per game when I looked at it. But he's playing tremendously himself. He's taking a lot of the load on.
There are 35 players averaging
35 players averaging 20 a game, which is insane to think about. But yeah, he's averaging 23. He's averaging 23 points, five rebounds, 7 assists on 50% shooting, 38 from three. So he's playing at a high level himself, but obviously the record of the team, which I do have to say though, we've had a few games with a lot of injuries or maybe just tanking, I don't know. But yeah, we are sitting at 14th. But obviously in the West and in the league as a whole, a lot of the records are identical.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to reward the winning in that aspect. So yeah, I went with Devin Booker.
Yeah, I also had Devin Booker. It's a bit crazy to think that Devin Booker was always getting snubbed for the All-Star game, and then in a year that he's having a bit of a down season statistically, he's kind of one of the favorites to go into that spot, and that just shows you the value of winning in this league from voters and coaches. I think he will be in that spot, Devin Booker, but as you said, CJ McCollum was an honourable mention I had. I think he was having a fantastic year, and I think if he didn't get hurt, he would be in that spot. He was really taking more of the offensive load on as he had in previous years, and it was almost 50-50, it seemed like, with Damian Lillard as to who was scoring that ball, being a clutch time scorer. All things we know CJ McCollum to be capable of, but he really put it all together this year, and it's unfortunate to see he went down with that hairline fracture, but I don't think it will keep him up for too long, and it's just a question now if he can come back and return to that form.
Yeah, he's one of those players with a deep offensive bag.
Mid-range game money, shoot the three well. Yeah, he's a real good, well-rounded offensive player. A few more honourable mentions that I had. De'Aaron Fox, who's really stepped up over the past month, really emerging as that franchise cornerstone for the Sacramento Kings, who have looked better as of recent as well. I think his game and Tyrese Halliburton's game, they really complement each other. Tyrese Halliburton more of a playmaker and hustler, whereas De'Aaron Fox can kind of focus on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, with the other young guys coming in, like Ja Morant, Trae Young, De'Aaron Fox kind of got lost in the shuffle there, but he is definitely one of those players that looks to, in future years, towards his prime, start to be a perennial all-star himself in that loaded West. And it seems like the West always has, so many high caliber guards, and it seems like that's not going to be any different with this next generation.
Yeah, and De'Aaron Fox has really expanded his game in terms of three-point shooting. He's shooting the three-pointer a lot a lot better this year as he has in previous years. I think season prior he couldn't hit a 3 to save his life, and now he's shooting at a 36% clip, which is pretty decent. He's up from 29% last year to 36% this year, so really improving that aspect, and it's made his offensive game a lot more threatening and dangerous. And then two other honourable mentions that I had was Brandon Ingram, who was an all-star last year. I don't think we'll get the nod this year, but he's doing what he always does, putting up, just scoring the ball. He's got a really, really deep offensive game.
He has the keys to the offense completely now, kind of with, and that's kind of had a detrimental effect on Lonzo Ball, but he's developed more as a playmaker as well. So they've kind of trusted him with the offense.
Yeah, and then I've got Christian Wood in there as my last honorable mention, who, we always rave about Christian Wood and how good he's been since he kind of emerged for the Pistons. And I feel like he will be an all-star for a long time in his career. But right now, I think the injury harms his case a bit, this recent injury he's had. But 22 and 10, those are all-star numbers on a team that's winning in the Rockets, probably doing better than people thought after that Harden trade. But yeah,
he just looks like the perfect offensive center.
Yeah, he can shoot the three as well.
Yeah, he's got a kind of Anthony Davis type game himself. With better three and not as good from mid-range. But yeah, he does look to be a promising young player and a future all-star.
Did you have any other honorable mentions?
No. My other, if I had 5-6 honorable mentions, it'd probably be the other ones that you mentioned. Definitely I had Brandon Ingram there, I had Christian Wood there for sure.
Yeah. I forgot to give my honorable mentions in the East, but I just had Bam Adebayo, who, while Jimmy was out, stepped up for the Heat. He's taken a little bit of a step back as of recent, but Bam Adebayo's, he's having a career as well. He showed what a talent he is in the bubble, and he's continuing that into this season. The Heat are starting to pick up some momentum now that Jimmy Butler's been back, so I expect them to kind of be in that 5-6 spot when it's all said and done. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got in there at all.
I had him as well.
I had Malcolm Brogdon. Obviously started the season, cooled off a little bit, but Malcolm Brogdon is another player that's a candidate for the 50-40-90 club. With Karis LeVert out, he had to, obviously Karis LeVert never saw the floor for the Pacers yet, but with Victor Oladipo leaving the team and Karis LeVert not being able to play, they needed some scoring from that guard position, and Malcolm Brogdon has been able to supply it, along with some playmaking as well, and he complements Domantas Sabonis really well.
Yeah, I had Bam as well. I had Butler, who I'm surprised you didn't mention.
I don't think he's played enough games.
Yeah. I had that simply for that reason. But that's why I have him as an honorable mention.
He crossed my mind. But
that's why I had him as an honorable mention rather than because he's only played 13 games. And then I had Jeremy Grant, who has stepped up. Yeah. He stepped up a big way.
Obviously on one of the worst teams in the league. So
he bet on himself. And he's absolutely taking advantage of that opportunity.
All right, I think that's all we've got for the All-Stars. In the edit, I will try and make that a bit clearer if it got a bit jumbled with how we did it. But I'll put visuals up on the screen. If you're listening on Spotify, I can go through. Should we go through it one more time?
All right.
So for the East starters, I've got Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, Kevin Durant, Giannis, and Embiid. And for the West, I've got Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, and Nikola Jokic.
For the East, I've got as my starters Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant, Giannis, and Embiid. And with my West starters, I've got Curry, Dame, LeBron, Kawhi, and Jokic.
And then for my reserves, I've got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Domantas Sabonis, Chris Middleton, and Trae Young. And in the West, I've got Zion Williamson, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Paul George, Dame, AD, and Devin Booker.
My East got Zach LaVine, Bradley Beal, Chris Middleton, Jason Tatum, Sabonis, Randall, and Hayward. And in the West, I've got Paul George, Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Rudy Gobert, and Zion Williamson.
Right, so tell us if you agree or disagree with those picks. Obviously, we had a few controversial ones in there. Should Zach LaVine be a starter? I think so.
Should Shea have been a starter? Should Dort be a reserve?
Should Dort be a reserve? Should Randall, Hayward, and
That's an interesting conversation, though. Should the player that makes all of your favorite all-stars shoot 2 for 20? Should he start? I mean, let's see. Should he be an all-star?
Wait, he shot 2 for 20. He shot 2 for 20.
I mean, think about it. Like, if Dort has all of your other all-stars, having nightmares the day before, they are 3 players. Maybe,
They should have an all defensive game. He'd be in there.
How you gonna have certain players? How you gonna have like Levine, Harden, LeBron as all stars, but not have their father as an all star? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Dort didn't put Levine in the chamber.
I think you've forgotten about that game. Do you not remember clutch time of that game?
No, but that was Denzel Valentine that put him in the chamber.
No, I'm talking about the last like several possessions with him and Kobe White. This episode's long enough, man.
We need to get out of here, man. Everyone's pretty falling asleep at this point. But thank you all for listening. Tell us if you disagree or agree with any of our all-star selections. And yeah, we're out. Peace.